I want to welcome all of you. Some of you may know that I have an interest in the history of anesthesia, and certainly the history of anesthesia within our department, and now with the job that I have currently, I better know it. So we've had some discussions recently with the education group, and particularly with Jeremy Lieberman, who I want to thank for helping to organize this. When we start talking about some of the educational programs we have for our residents, I'm not sure they realize how extraordinary the opportunities are to hear lectures from some of the great pioneers in anesthesia, and the fact that they are right here in our department. So when we started talking about that and thinking that these are such amazing lectures, and if you're there, that's an amazing experience, but we don't all have the opportunity to go there. So we decided that we would like to both recognize these pioneers in anesthesia and, most importantly, record their lectures so that we can keep these in the department, make them publicly available on our website so people can share what it is that we've been able to share within this department. So after some discussion, we decided to establish a new lecture series which will occur once a year. It's called the Pioneers in Anesthesia Lecture Series, and it was pretty easy to come up with our first speaker. So our first speaker is John Severinghaus, who you see seated before you here. And I want to start by offering him a plaque which commemorates this first lecture. So, and again, thank you to Jeremy and to Cindy Chin, who did a great job of organizing this event. So first of all, here's a plaque, and this is the first ever Pioneers of Anesthesia Lecture, John Severinghaus, High Altitude Physiology. So thank you, John.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
So I want to just say a couple of words, and I didn't want to bother him too much. I actually found a really nice description about John on the American Physiological Society website. There are some things that were interesting. He was born in Madison, Wisconsin in 1922, apparently by his mother was under chloroform anesthesia. Is that true?
Yes.
Because she had a breech delivery, and so that's interesting in and of itself, so maybe we'll hear a little bit about that. He started at Haverford. He has a remarkable memory, you'd be surprised. He was educated at Haverford College and then got a physics degree at MIT and worked on radar during World War II. He went to medical school initially at the University of Wisconsin, then transferred where he met his wife, and then transferred to Columbia where he finished his training. After that, he went to study with Robert Dripps at Penn, and it was obviously a very important experience for him. I don't know that he had an interest in anesthesia at that time, but Penn was a remarkable place. And one of the best things that ever happened to us was the fact that Julius Comroe, who John met at Penn, was recruited to come here to UCSF and really build our scientific programs. And there's no question that the person that is singularly most responsible for UCSF to being a leader in science is Julius Comroe, because he started the Cardiovascular Research Institute, brought people like John and many others that you've met, and some of whom still work here, and that's what really put us on the map. He was a practicing anesthesiologist, and I remember that as well from when I was a resident, and certainly have fond memories of the mass spectrometer system that he built in the operating rooms. Also, I would say we had the very first email that anybody had, because you could actually send messages from one OR to another, and for our younger residents, believe it or not, that was a remarkable thing. You could send a real-time message by typing something in. You could also see which of your colleagues were stuck in a long craniotomy or something like that, and you could even see the end-tidal gases. And there was an incredible spaghetti of plastic tubes that would go from the OR, from the anesthesia machine, and then would snake its way through the ceiling ducts over to the anesthesia workroom, where only John could repair that machine. And it was incredible. Certainly has had a long-standing interest in oxygen, and most importantly known for developing the oxygen and carbon dioxide electrodes and essentially the blood gas machine. And some of you might have been here a few weeks ago when we celebrated the 50th anniversary of critical care at UCSF, and I showed a picture of that first blood gas machine, and I suspect you'll see one of those today. He's published over 250 papers, given hundreds of lectures around the world, and remains remarkably active in the scientific community. I think I saw him at the AUA meeting this year, and he had been at the Royal Society in London. So when it comes to role models in terms of scientific careers, he's certainly one of mine. I can desperately hope that at age 92 that I will be doing something like this as well. I could only be so lucky. So I'm really delighted to introduce John as our first Pioneers in Anesthesia lecturer.
Thank you. Okay.